You know what gets me? Really gets me? It's how some people think they can size you up with just one glance, like your life, your story, your worth are all laid bare in the color of your skin and the cut of your coat. That's how my afternoon started at Westchester County Airport, rain beating down hard. When I heard that voice, cold as steel, get out of here and wait outside. You have no reason to be here. I just stepped out of my car, still riding high off the adrenaline of closing the biggest deal of my career, and in the blink of an eye, I went from being the owner of Bennett Aviation to being treated like a trespasser in my own company's lounge. Yeah, that happened. I could feel every eye on me, curiosity prickling through the room, the kind that has nothing to do with respect and everything to do with judgment. Jason Miller, the lounge manager, looked me up and down with that special kind of suspicion only reserved for folks who don't fit the mold. He took my platinum card and boarding pass, held them up to the light, and announced, loudly enough for everyone to hear, that they looked unusual. Not the kind of thing you forget. Meanwhile, I stood there drenched, humiliated while he waved in the next white guest, not even checking ID. You ever try to swallow your pride and your anger at the same time? It tastes like rainwater and contempt. 25 minutes passed before Jason finally let me into the lounge, not out of apology, but because the rain was coming down so hard he couldn't justify keeping me outside any longer. Even then, his tone said it all will be keeping a close eye on you. Imagine that. The CEO being monitored in her own house. But I let it ride. Sometimes you need to see how deep the rot goes before you start tearing out the floorboards. So I sat, silent and watchful, while they kept their little show going, and every nod, every side glance from the staff reminded me that this was bigger than just one rude employee. It was a sickness in the air, invisible but deadly. Let me back up a sec. There was this young attendant, Mia Collins. She caught my eye, guilt flickering in her face. She knew something wasn't right, but didn't dare speak up. I'd seen it before, good folks, too scared to rock the boat. And on the other side, Jason, so sure of his sixth sense for spotting real VIPs, couldn't imagine a black woman holding power. I knew then this wasn't just about me. This was about every person who'd ever been told directly or not that they didn't belong. After a while, I put on my coat, still damp, and made my way to the private jet apron. That's when the next storm hit. Emma Roberts, head attendant, stood in front of the steps to my own plane, face set like a brick wall, and flat out refused to let me board. Her words, sharp as glass, "You don't look like the kind of passenger we normally serve. Are you sure you're not supposed to be over at the commercial terminal?" still ring in my ears. She didn't bother checking my documents, just assumed. And if you think that's the worst of it, she called security, making a scene as if I was the intruder. Captain Davis, the pilot, watched from the cockpit, turn his back. Emma, emboldened, kept ramping it up, even mocked the idea I could afford the flight. Jason arrived, and the two of them doubled down. "Anyone can fake these documents," he said, waving my black corporate card around like a joke. Nobody in the crowd stood up. The silence hurt almost as much as their words. It was Mia, the same young attendant, who finally stepped forward. Voice shaking, she apologized right there in front of everyone. It took guts, and her honesty was a spark in the dark, but Emma shut her down fast. Still, that moment gave me what I needed. See, sometimes you have to let people reveal exactly who they are before you turn the tables. I pulled out my phone and called Ethemy brother and the company, so told him to get the executive team and the board there right now. The instant Ethan's voice echoed through the phone, things shifted. Emma tried to laugh it off. Maybe next she'll announce herself president of the United States, but you could see the cracks forming. I told her one last time to check the manifest. She refused. That's when Captain Davis, conscience finally catching up, looked at his tablet and paled. The first name on the list, me name, Olivia Bennett, owner, see, I stared right back at him. You ever watch someone realize they've been standing on a trapdoor? That was the look on Emma's face. Moments later, Ethan arrived with the board, lawyers, HR, security, the works. The room froze. My brother's voice was ice. Why was my sister, the CEO of Bennett Aviation, treated like a criminal on her own plane? Emma tried to claim she was just doing her duty, but Ethan cut her off. Duty to what? Prejudice? There was nowhere left to hide. Ryan Hughes, Our head of security sealed the lounge, began collecting all the surveillance footage. The staff knew the gig was up. I called a meeting right there on the jet. Emma tried to blame procedure. I asked if that procedure included judging by skin color. Jason said he was just backing up a colleague, but you could see the shame weighing him down. Captain Davis admitted his fault, but I had to suspend him pending a full investigation. I told Emma and Jason. Effective immediately, they were both terminated. No place for that in my company. But that wasn't enough. I stood before everyone, staff, executives, my brother by my side, and made it clear. This wasn't just about two people. This was a reckoning for a whole culture gone wrong. From that day, we launched mandatory anti-bias training for every employee, top to bottom. Created a third-party hotline so every complaint of bias would be heard and acted on. Even brought in AI to catch discriminatory language in emails and meetings. No more letting things slide. And you know what? The people who showed courage like Mia got recognized. She was promoted to Senior Customer Service Manager. Lucas Parker, who tried to speak up even when he was shut down, became Regional Director. It wasn't just about punishing the wrong. It was about rewarding what's right. Word got out fast. Our story became a case study at Harvard, a headline about what it means to lead with purpose, not just profit. Congress called me to testify about corporate responsibility. And then came the biggest twist. Months later. Emma herself wrote a public apology, owning up to her ignorance and asking to help us teach others. I let her join our anti-bias program not as punishment, but as proof that change is possible if you're willing to face yourself. The day I returned home for my father's 70th birthday, he told me, "Power without purpose is mere privilege, but power with purpose changes the world." That stuck with me, because what started as a day of humiliation turned into a legacy of courage, fairness, and real change. So, let me ask you, if you were standing in my shoes, would you have the guts to fight back, not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes after you? Tell me, where do you stand on justice, on prejudice, on the silence that lets it fester? Drop your thoughts below. Like, share, subscribe if you believe stories like this matter. I'll see you in the next one.